Good afternoon, everyone. The Standing Committee on Heritage, Infrastructure and Cultural Policy will now come to order. We're meeting to consider the 2025-2026 estimates of the Ministry of Infrastructure for a total of 2 hours. We are joined. PP French, please.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Minister and Deputy Minister. I just wanted to seek some clarification before I begin. When the estimates were tabled in June, it was the Ministry of Infrastructure responsible for the Ontario Place redevelopment as well as the Ontario Science Centre. I know responsibility has been transferred to Tourism Ministry, but we're here to discuss and vote on the ministry estimates as they were tabled. So I just want to make sure that there are officials responsible for Ontario Place and the Science Centre are present and can answer questions.
Minister, I guess that's a question for you. The mentioned responsibilities are in the estimates printed version. So
there are folks who can answer questions about those?
That's understood. I will take each question as it comes, but certainly I can answer some questions to a limited extent on Ontario Place, for example. That in and of itself would not be out of order, but as we know, for the record, the responsibility has been transferred to tourism.
Okay. It's appropriate for me to ask about the estimates as tabled?
Yes.
Okay. So last year the government shut down the Science Centre and said that the closure would be cheaper than making repairs, which Infrastructure Ontario had estimated at 22 to 40 million. But on page 36 of the ministry's detailed financials, we see that interim spending on the Science Centre last year was more than 50 million higher than the previous year, and planned spending for this year is another 50 million. Historically, government funding for the Science Centre has been less than 20 million per year. And so my question to the minister is, why is the government spending more to keep the Science Centre closed than it claimed it would cost to keep the Science Centre open?
Through you, Chair, to the member from the official opposition. We are proud to be leading a once-in-a-generation revitalization project at both the Ontario Science Centre and Ontario Place. The plan is, of course, that the new Ontario Science Centre will be relocated to the newly revitalized Ontario Place. Currently, of course, there are 2 interim locations for the Ontario Science Centre, one of which I visited as Minister of the Environment earlier this year.
Chair.
But both sites, if I may say, were left in an abysmal condition by the previous government. Minister Surma worked tirelessly on ensuring that Ontario Place...
Minister, it is the member of the opposition's time.
And so. I know this story forward, backward, and inside out, as do everyone in this room. My question is, why is the government, as per the estimates, spending more to keep the Science Centre closed than it claimed it would cost to keep it open?
So as I've indicated, when it comes to any property, there's maintenance costs to keep the property adequately maintained. That's part of what is at play here with the former site of the Ontario Science Centre. But to dig deeper, I would ask my deputy to hand it off to whomever he believes would be of assistance in providing more details.
Absolutely. Ali Vishkini, Deputy Minister of Infrastructure. Some of those costs, 19 million is what the province provided, but the cost truly to run the Science Centre could range from, and the Auditor General has said, anywhere from, I think, 32 million to about 38 million yearly. Mm-hmm. In terms of some of the costs that we're looking to also cover moving forward is with respect to one, still maintaining 770 Don Mills, which is a very small portion of that, but also making sure that the exhibits were decommissioned appropriately and stored appropriately as well as the moving costs. So it's really around the moving of the exhibits, making sure we're fortifying the asset as well, and as well helping the Science Centre, which was always in their plan, to keep on ensuring that they're getting out there in the community with satellite, with any kind of satellite interim locations as well as programming. With respect to the exhibits and any cost around those exhibits, those costs would have been borne regardless when the move would have happened anyway, because a lot of those exhibits are old, and as the Auditor General did note, over $100 million we would have to pay for new exhibits to make sure that they're refreshed and they meet the new STEM learning. And so really around that costing, we would have had to borne a lot of those costs anyway in terms of making sure that we're decommissioning the facility and storing those old exhibits and then figuring out what to do with them. So that's really around the increased cost.
Thank you. The Auditor General says the estimated costs of relocating the Science Centre are at least $400 million higher than what was claimed in the government's business case. The decision to relocate was based on claimed savings of $257 million over 50 years, when in fact the government will save hundreds of millions of dollars by simply repairing the existing Science Centre. I'll ask if the minister will admit that it will cost taxpayers more to relocate the Science Centre than it would to complete the long neglected repairs.
Well, through you, Chair, first of all, the decision to leave the Don Mills site for the Science Centre to relocate to 2 interim locations and ultimately to the newly revitalized Ontario Place, it was made by the board of the Science Centre, and it was made, as I understand it, on the advice of engineering professional experts. But I, again, defer to the Deputy Minister for any further detail.
Yep.
In terms of roof repair or anything else with that respect, really it was around the safety and ensuring that there was a safety. A lot of the roof repair also we could not get to, and so what we had to do was, regardless, close down the Science Centre for up to 2 years to be able to investigate 20-30% of the roof assembly that we could not even get to evaluate the risk.
Okay.
So we were not prepared to put anyone in a building where we could not even evaluate the risk and have to shut it down for 1 to 2 years. With respect to cost of new versus repair, one thing that the committee should keep in mind is, regardless of cost, and Auditor General noting that the cost to build new also, but the cost to repair has also gone up post-COVID as well. So it has to be an apples-to-apples comparison when looking at that. Currently, we are out to tender as well for the new Science Centre, and we'll see what that pricing does come in at vis-a-vis what the Auditor General quoted as a potential cost.
Thank you. This isn't the question I was going to ask, but is the new Science Centre going to have, is it going to be a standalone, or will it still be built on the parking garage?
Standalone.
Standalone. So that will include a foundation and possibly a basement?
A foundation, yes, and possibly.
Okay. You're all looking at me. Currently, or my understanding was it was going to be built on top of a parking garage and therefore it wouldn't need a foundation. So that will be additional cost than what people were anticipating. Is that a fair assessment?
No, there was always a foundation, and also understanding that under that foundation you do have to have things like shipping and receiving, right? Things of that nature, and also allowing operational vehicles to come in and out. You wouldn't want those operational vehicles or shipping bays to be in the front of a brand new building. So there was always going to be one level under that was anticipated for those operational aspects.
Thank you. It's been a year and a half since the government issued an RFP for an interim Ontario Science Centre facility. The government said this interim facility would be open no later than January 1st, 2026.
I have to excuse the member. There's point of order. MPP Sandhu.
Chair, I think this question is outside the scope of estimates. Minister is very generous enough to explain the situation about Ontario Place and Ontario Science Centre, but if we can focus on I think this is not within the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Infrastructure. It has been moved to a different ministry now. So if you can please stay within the scope of estimates.
I've already asked for decision on this, and I got clarification.
MPP Sandhu, it is in the estimates that's before us.
And it is in order, which is what I asked at the beginning before I began. Thank you.
It is. The answer is it is in, so the point of order is not valid at this point. MPP French, please resume.
Okay, but well done throwing me off my track. I'm sure you'll do it again. The government said that the interim facility would be open no later than January 1st, 2026. You have less than 2 months left. Will this interim facility be open on January 1st?
Well, through you, Chair, I visited an interim facility that is one of the 2 interim sites for the Science Centre, so it is already open. As far as I can tell, I did indicate that. But the member suggested January 1st, 2026. We're in 2025. Perhaps the deputy can confirm or refute.
Absolutely. So working with the Science Centre in terms of the strategy of what an interim location looks like at the time, the decision was made in order to allow for the Science Centre to have a more varied and much more expansive reach. There was 2 locations that were picked. One was Sherway, and that location was picked given its connectivity to a mall as well as in an urban spot. as well as the Harborfront Center, which was really picked given the proximity to the future Science Center and the potential catchment of people that would be coming as well to the new Science Center. So really the decision was to create 2 interim locations. Those locations could be activated very quickly as well, and the Science Center could start testing things like new ticketing systems, getting out to new communities that they haven't been to as well.
So is what we have today, and the minister just said like he has visited an interim facility, so is that what we can expect then? Like is that all that there is? So what I was asking, that the RFP for an interim Ontario Science Centre facility is what we have now, that's it?
Currently, as it states, that we know, yes, some questions can be referred to of any future plans to MTCG Ministry, whose estimates will be next week.
Okay, so in June, the Science Centre Employees Union was told plans for the temporary Science Centre had been paused. That's where we are today, that where the minister has visited, those, like that's all
Those are
there
the
is.
2 interim locations. However, there's other pop-ups as well as other kind of programming that are being completed right now. But yes, there's
Okay.
2 interim locations currently.
Thank you. When will the new permanent Ontario Science Centre be open?
Well, I think that definitely is a question would have to be answered by the Minister of Tourism at estimates next week, because that's a
Okay.
forward-thinking question beyond what we already have, which are 2 interim sites that are already operational.
Okay. Just thought I might, while you were here, see what you knew. Thank you. The relocated Ontario Science Centre is one of 3 major procurements underway for the Ontario Place site. Another procurement underway is for the new parking solution, which evidently will be a new surface structure for up to 3,500 vehicles located across from the Brigantine Cove. How many stories is that structure going to be?
The structure will be up to 4 to 5 stories. And then the number is
Sorry?
up to 4 stories.
I heard
potentially.
45 stories.
No, 4 to 5
4
stories.
to 5.
Stories, yes.
We just want to be clear for
Accommodate.
Hansard.
Yes. And what you quoted is an up to number as well. And as we said in the scope of briefing, it's really centered around maximizing the amount of parking space, not just for the site alone, but for the north of Lakeshore as well, and to potentially activate parking for not just Ontario Place, but also the surrounding areas.
Thank you. A press release from the ministry and the Premier's office stated that the parking garage would cost less than $400 million and generate up to $60 million in annual gross revenue. Will the ministry please provide the business cases or studies or whatever is provided the basis for these claims?
So through you, Chair, I would defer to the Deputy Minister or the Infrastructure Ontario representatives who are present.
Thank you for that. Those are the numbers that went to Treasury Board. In terms of the business case, I cannot commit to providing that right now, but that is an answer that we can take back and get a response to.
Okay, so the business case or studies or whatever provided the basis, you will take that back and see if it's something that can be shared with the committee.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Since the ministry knows how much revenue will be generated by the parking garage, it must know how much it will cost for someone to park. How much will it cost?
There's going to be a wide range, and if we do want to get into more details, I can ask Angela Klein to come up, but there's a wide range depending on the time, depending on the event as well. So the government has not determined what a true parking is, but the range of parking price within that area could deviate from $20 to over $30, depending on if you go and do a survey of other areas, and really depending on the type of event as well that is on the typical day. So really there's a wide range of rates, and government has not determined.
Okay.
45 seconds.
Ministry also released a conceptual design for the parking structure with some very pretty design elements. Are these elements actually included in the RFP's required deliverables?
I think the short answer is yes.
Okay.
Through you, Chair, according to the Deputy.
Okay, and I think I'm probably out of time.
Yep.
Okay.
MP, official opposition, MPP French.
Thank you. And just before the pause, I wanted to confirm, I had asked about the conceptual drawing for the parking structure at Ontario Place, that the interesting design elements, that those elements have been included in the RFP's required deliverables, and I believe I was told yes.
So that's a conceptual drawing. I'll ask Angela Clayton to come and describe what is the design elements that are in an RFP.
Yeah, because it's quite pretty, and I'm wondering if eventually it will just look like any other parking garage, or if those interesting design elements are actually included in the required deliverables.
So the RFP for the parking garage that's in market right now is a design build. So that means that the proponents that are responding are going to be responsible for the design. So we specify the capacity, as we've talked about, up to 5 stories and the anticipated number of spots. We also specify design requirements. So we talk about the aesthetic nature, desired outcome. So we wouldn't say specifically it needs to look like the rendering that was produced, but that there are aesthetic aspects of it. So, you know, the integration of green space through the utilization of a berm, the profiling of Ontario as part of the signage, and making sure that there is aesthetically pleasing paneling on the exterior of the parking garage were all factors as part of the design requirements that are in the RFP.
Okay, I appreciate the clarification. The government published the, quote, final designs for the public realm improvements contemplated for the East Island. The government's webpage says these designs may be subject to change. So final designs and subject to change. Are these final designs or are they not? Like, if I could see clarification on those two.
Back to the Infrastructure Ontario representative, Ms. Angela Clayton.
Thank you,
if we may.
Angela.
Thank you.
So different from the RFP that's in market right now for parking, we also have an RFP in market for public realm. That is what's referred to as a construction management agreement. Mm-hmm. So typically the design is complete. So that design has been completed by our third-party designer. We're then going to retain a firm that is responsible for building that design. Throughout that process, it's not uncommon for challenges with the design or issues to come up, and so that gives the province the flexibility to make revisions to the design if there's issues that are identified by the builder once they're retained.
So they may not be final designs, but
the design
revisable.
Correct.
Kind of
The design is complete, and once the construction manager is retained, they'll be provided the design. As they get going with their construction drawings and start to tender the packages, issues might come up, and that might prompt the need for changes.
Okay, so I should think fine-tuning as opposed to something totally new.
That would be accurate, yes.
Okay. Were the designers given a target budget to work from? Yeah.
Typically with a CM, construction management agreement, we would have an estimate for what it would cost to build the design. That is shared with the builders. We also recently released our market update, which includes the estimated range of cost for public realm. If you just give me one moment, I will reference what that number was that was disclosed. And that number that was disclosed was between $200 million and $499 million. And so that would be the range that would be provided to the bidders. Once the company's retained, then we work with them to develop a more detailed budget based on the design that has been completed.
Okay. Can we ask for the terms of reference given to the designers of these final designs with the target capital budgets, required elements, or deliverables?
The RFP documents are typically made public once the procurement has been completed. So this is in an active procurement right now.
Okay.
So once the procurement is completed, we will make those documents public, and those documents will include all of the information that was disclosed to the bidders as part of the process.
Okay. Thank you. The Auditor General reported that Ontario Live had been given a sole source contract to deliver services and amenities on East Island, despite Infrastructure Ontario previously advising the ministry not to have further discussions with them. So my question is, last year, after IO advised the ministry again about the unsuitability of Ontario Live, the ministry told Ontario Live it would instead proceed with a competitive procurement Earlier this year, IO launched a procurement for the Ontario Place landscape and public realm construction. Will Ontario Live be eligible to bid on this or any other procurement for services on the East Island, given Infrastructure Ontario's repeatedly stated concerns about its suitability and qualifications?
Or just want to say to begin, and then I can defer to the IO representative, Ms. Clayton. So the IO market update, generally addressing all projects, was released just this past month. It includes 25 projects in pre- and active procurement. It represents a combined design and construction value of more than $30 billion. And then in addition, Chair, through you, there are 20 projects listed in the market update in the planning stages for which scope, timing, and delivery model are still being determined. Now,
Okay.
These projects bolster the government's more than $200 billion capital plan that's been referenced already. And so we are quite confident in our ability to deliver large infrastructure projects on time. And the IO market update was released publicly to assist the public and all members of
Thank
the
you.
provincial parliament to be more familiar with where we're at.
Well,
But
and to
anything
your
more specific than that?
To your point with what is in active procurement and whatnot, I am being forward-looking with this question because as we've talked about the public realm construction, will Ontario Live be eligible to bid on this or other procurement for services on the East Island?
The RFQ for the request for qualifications for the public realm was released in June and then closed in August of this year. The RFP is expected to be released early of next year. Ontario Live was not one of the shortlisted firms for public realm. And also there currently is no restriction in place that would prevent them from bidding on any of the Ontario Place packages. As part of our standard process through the request for qualifications, we would continue to assess any submission that they make in terms of whether or not they're qualified to deliver the services that they're bidding on.
Okay, thank you. Time?
7 minutes and 40 seconds.
Okay. Minister, you raised the prospect of having new hospitals, and I know that there isn't a community in this province that isn't excited to have access to the health care that they need and deserve. Focused on the Ottawa Hospital, Infrastructure Ontario is in the process of finalizing the contract for the new Ottawa Hospital Civic Campus Redevelopment Project. This project is being procured using what is called a progressive P3 model. This is the same model that was recently flagged by the Auditor General. She noted that for the Ottawa Hospital as well as the new Mississauga Hospital, Infrastructure Ontario changed the delivery method to this progressive P3 model in the hope of getting more competitive bids, but in both cases, Infrastructure Ontario still only got a single bid. The costs of building the new Mississauga Hospital are more than $14 billion. I feel like that is a lot of money. Is that a lot of money? Is that what it costs to build a hospital these days?
Well, the commitment that our government has made is a transformational one in terms of the dollar investment and the fact that I believe the number is 50 new or upgraded hospitals. The member, I think, references one of those, and I can defer to Infrastructure Ontario's representative for that in particular.
Thank you.
Because I think two were mentioned, the Mississauga one and the Ottawa one in the question.
And I do like the specific question I have, but also it's a bit more of a conversational question too. Like 14 billion seems like a lot of money for a hospital. And if we're planning to build as many as we are in whole or upgraded parts, and we only have 2 bidders that go back and forth and can only handle one at a time, if it takes us 50 years or whatever, the costs are going to continue to grow, and we're already at $14 billion. So my question is $14 billion a lot? Is that what it costs to build a hospital, actually?
I think it's important to note that that $14 billion isn't just for the construction cost, so it also includes the operating cost and the life cycle costs associated with that hospital for a 30-year period. So $14 billion is actually not an accurate reflection of just the construction cost. In terms of the current conditions of the construction market and some of the challenges around competition, I think two things have happened. One is coming out of the pandemic, private sector is less willing to take risks that they were previously around things like construction materials, inflation, supply chain constraints. So we've seen a decrease in the market's willingness to take risk. We've also seen an increase in the size and complexity of projects, and that also limits the pool of available bidders who are qualified to build projects of that size and complexity.
Okay. Side note, as a private member of the legislature, and maybe others are getting it too, but we hear from whistleblowers on various projects, issues, whatnot, but these massive P3s and the P3 procurement versus traditional procurement. Is there someone at Infrastructure Ontario we could talk to and highlight some of these like extravagant, I would say, wastes of taxpayer dollars that I'm not at liberty to drop on this table right now, but I'd be very happy to, is that something that the Ministry or Infrastructure Ontario, this isn't an estimates question, I'm just here, so are you.
Well, I want to say very clearly through you, Chair, we will continue to use P3s or private-public partnerships. That model has proven successful for major infrastructure projects where it makes sense. Now, IO uses a wide range of delivery models, which Ms. Clayton can point out in more detail, but the wide range of delivery models is to increase the probability of success considering current market conditions and the project type, the scale, the complexity, and the risk profile, including the P3 model. And
thank you. And philosophically,
any more than that,
you and I are diametrically opposed on what we think of P3s. So I will. We can have that conversation over lunch sometime.
Success because they
and we define success differently.
Ms. Clayton can.
I would like us to save money and get good value for dollars. So it is my time
to fully answer the question.
It is my time, and now I will ask the next question because Ms. Clayton has answered that question about the $14 billion. So in 2008, the Auditor General put out a report criticizing the procurement of the Brampton Civic Hospital, whose lifetime costs had risen to about $1 billion, which the Auditor General said was about $200 million more than what the hospital would have cost with traditional procurement, which is why fundamentally I have a problem with bad P3s where we don't have transparency, but we have these massive cost overruns. 16 years later, the Auditor General is still criticizing Infrastructure Ontario, except hospital costs have risen by an order of magnitude, and cost overruns are measured in billions now instead of millions. So my question is, how high do infrastructure costs need to rise before this ministry starts demanding more accountability, I would say from Infrastructure Ontario, but about these procurement methods? Like, we're seeing cost overruns in the billions. We cannot possibly justify that. What will it take for the ministry to reevaluate its support of these procurement methods?
Well, costs have risen through you, Chair. That's well known to everyone.
Excuse me, point of order,
The minister
MPP
is
Sanderson.
choosing to answer.
Yeah, thank you,
What on earth?
Madam Chair. This is a question as it relates to large infrastructure projects that come under another ministry, the Ministry of Health. So if you're talking about procurement projects like hospitals, that's not under Infrastructure Ontario, that's the Ministry of Health.
I point out that the minister himself, the minister of Infrastructure here today, talked about hospitals.
60 seconds.
To the minister, and you just cut him off. Could the minister please continue his thought?
No, I made a point of order, and that's through the chair. If you want to make a comment about that. Being said, the infrastructure
Infrastructure.
Okay, there's 28 seconds left. If the minister would like to add anything in the last 28 seconds,
I'd be happy to
please
add
go ahead.
that we intend to keep going, as the Premier would say. We're going to keep going. We're going to support the Ministry of Health here at the Ministry of Infrastructure and through Infrastructure Ontario in building and upgrading as many as 50 hospitals across Ontario, because that's what we owe the public. And if we want to have a good, strong healthcare system, we've got to build that infrastructure and upgrade existing infrastructure. So we will keep going, Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's time completed. Yes, MPP Babikian, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister and the staff, for coming today and presenting such a uplifting and good news estimate to the committee and through the committee to the people of Ontario. I am surprised that some of the committee members are doing this service to the people of Ontario instead of focusing on these good news projects that will affect their families for future generations to come. They are focusing on issues which are not part of the estimates. And for example, P3 projects like hospitals are not part of the infrastructure ministry estimates or other issues that have been repeating. But I wanted you to talk about the regulatory and approval delays that many of these projects are facing because those delays affect timelines and budgets. So what is the ministry doing to help address infrastructure gaps and prevent delays for a major infrastructure project across Ontario so that we can deliver those projects on time and on budget?
Well, I'm pleased to report that since the June 2025 market update, 4 major infrastructure projects have indeed advanced to either the development phase or the contract execution. These include the all-important Garden City Skyway twinning, the York North Subway Extension Advanced Tunnel, the Eglinton Cross Town West Extension at Stations, Rail and Systems, and Phase 2 of the William Osler Health Systems Peel Memorial Centre for Integrated Health and Wellness. Now, each of these projects, Chair, represents real progress, creating jobs, improving connectivity, and strengthening public services. They will deliver lasting benefits for communities across our province, and they are clear examples, I submit, of how strategic investments are building a strong and more resilient province, protecting Ontario. Additionally, we will continue to use private-public partnerships, P3s, for major infrastructure projects where it makes sense and when appropriate, guided by the strong track record of Infrastructure Ontario's leadership in this area. Our agency, Infrastructure Ontario, does use a wide range of delivery models to increase the probability of success, considering current market conditions and the project type, its scale, its complexity, and the risk profile, including that P3 model.
There's 29 seconds left if anybody would like it on the government side.
Anyone wants to take a shot?
Okay. 29 seconds. Down to 25. Gone. Okay. The final round, which will be 10 minutes and 20 seconds, goes to the official opposition, MPP French.
Thank you very much. I just, for the record, chose not to interrupt the minister as he spoke so eloquently about P3s in hospitals, which I got point of ordered for not being allowed to discuss. Just fun fact there. And when I did ask why the minister was able to talk about hospitals, it was MPP Anand who said it's because he's kind. So I thought I would return the favor and not interrupt. But moving forward, is it true that the government is no longer funding new GO stations and that if municipalities want new GO stations, they will need to raise the funds themselves to pay for them?
We are committed, Chair, through you, to transit-oriented communities through a number of locations along both the subway and the GO Transit and LRT lines. So our government is ensuring that affordable housing units and attainable housing units will be available at planned transit-oriented communities. And the province will work then with local municipalities on a site-by-site basis to identify how housing outcomes, such as affordable housing and other community benefits,
Chair,
will be provided.
I'm going to reclaim my time. Minister, I do have questions about transit-oriented communities, but specifically this one. It used to be that the provincial government paid for provincial infrastructure, including train stations. So my question is it a fair assessment that if a municipality wants a new GO station that they will have to raise the funds for themselves to pay for them? Is that a fair characterization?
Well, there are planned transit stations, and then there are ones that the municipalities wish to pursue, and I can defer to my deputy minister with respect to the difference.
Yeah. Future questions around building of stations, the predictability or the capacity of stations, and what it should be referred to Ministry of Transportation. With respect to what the Ministry of Infrastructure is responsible for, is helping municipalities that want a station that is outside of a current plan, that want to bring it, and we are providing a transit station charge to help them enable a transit station that they want to bring forward.
Thank you. And for reasons that
An optional tool. The transit station charge.
well, if they want a station, it is a tool. For reasons that I still don't understand, the Ministry of Infrastructure is responsible for the GO Transit Station Funding Act, which the government enacted in 2023. I think that is connected, Mr. Veshkini, which you had just, what we're talking about, that MTO would be for other, like for other stations, but infrastructure is responsible for what I'm talking about now, which is the act that created a new tax that municipalities can levy on developments near GO transit stations. And it's my understanding that the regulations have finally been crafted. So on the one hand, the government is limiting the ability of municipalities to use development charges to pay for municipal infrastructure. But on this hand, the ministry is giving municipalities the ability to use a new development charge to pay for provincial infrastructure. So I would like maybe for you to explain the thinking.
Okay, as stated, but this is further to that, the transit station charge is available as an optional tool, and that's available at the choice of a municipality if that municipality wishes to expedite the process of building new GO stations while recovering it over time as homes are built around the station. Now, development charges are different. They help municipalities recover a portion of growth-related capital costs incurred to provide services to new residents and businesses. What we are doing, Chair, through you, is we are working closely with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing to ensure that the transit station charge does not become an additional burden to new housing getting built. The Ministry of Infrastructure, and in particular whoever the minister is, whether it's the acting minister, at this time me, or Minister Surma, must always sign off on the use of the TSC by a particular community.
Thank you. And you and I both are in the same neck of the woods, and we know that Durham Region
We
is...
share the great municipality of Oshawa.
We share Oshawa, and I think we share it well. But, Minister, I know that the region of Durham is proud of the work that they had done with government to ensure that they had a way to build these stations. And as you said, it's an optional tool at the choice of the municipality to expedite the process of building stations. If a municipality wants a station but they don't reach for this tool, does that mean they can't have a station, or they just have to fundraise for themselves?
Well, the idea, as I said, is that it's a choice. We want to support municipalities in every way we can, but it's never one size fits all, and we've got to be able to give options, and that's why the transit station charge is available as an optional tool.
Time?
4 minutes and 50 seconds.
Okay. The ministry is planning to spend $200 million on the East Harbour transit-oriented community this year, as per page 39 of the detailed financials. Specifically, and maybe this is to the Deputy Minister or to whomever, specifically, what is this money for? Like, who is this money being transferred to?
So on East Harbour, I'm familiar with the project, but I believe the Deputy Minister can fill us in on the details.
Absolutely. The $200 million is a part of a tripart investment with the municipality as well as the federal government. It's really to ensure that the floodplains, that those lands in the East Harbour are not a part of the floodplains anymore, so that the future station and any housing moving forward can be developed appropriately and not be flooded.
And we need to implement this flood protection to ensure this vibrant mixed-use community comes to be.
And further to that, vibrant mixed use, will there be affordable housing in the East Harbour transit-oriented community?
It's going to be a vibrant, mixed-use community that will include a diverse range of commercial and residential space. That I can assure the member. And that
Affordable
includes
housing
retail,
specifically?
food, cultural uses, and public amenities. And it won't be one size fits all. There'll be a range of residential space.
Will there be affordable housing
And the answer
in
is
this
yes.
vibrant mixed use?
Short answer is yes.
Okay, I like short answers. Okay, transit-oriented communities, I might have a little bit of time left. The whole idea behind the transit-oriented community program is that by giving developers the right to build near transit, there will be surplus value that can be captured to pay for things like GO stations. Earlier this month, we learned that the transit-oriented community at Park Lawn was in trouble because the development partner couldn't make the numbers work, and the Mimico transit-oriented community remains a hole in the ground after that development partner went into receivership. Is the transit-oriented community program in trouble?
Through you, Chair, the head of Infrastructure Ontario, Ms. Clayton, has rejoined us.
Thank you, Ms. Clayton.
I would say that there are broader challenges across the housing development sector right now, beyond just transit-oriented communities. So there are a number of new housing developments that have stalled because of the increased cost of construction, the cost of development charges, and other challenges. So yes, there are some of the transit-oriented community projects that have not progressed at pace that we had initially anticipated, but that is reflective of the broader current economic state in the housing market, not specific to transit-oriented communities.
Okay, thank you. Any time left? 2 minutes. Okay. I had the opportunity to serve for a while as chair of the Procedure and House Affairs Committee. I'm not anymore, so I'm not in that loop. But I do know that the renovation and restoration of Queen's Park seemed to fall at the feet of infrastructure, despite the fact it's still the government house leader in charge of it as per the legislation. But how do we see that progressing? What's next?
Well, we are blessed to have a parliamentary democracy and to be able to represent 124 communities here collectively in this historic building, which opened in April of 1893.
No, I don't want the history of this one. I was on that committee. I know it.
But I want to talk about what the next 132
And who's ever debating?
years
It's
looks
60
like.
seconds left.
I want to talk
Are
about
we
what the next
decanting?
132
Where's the
years
next
looks
location?
Like. And the
What's
Board
happening?
of Internal Economy, of course, is responsible for this, and it's a nonpartisan.
I know.
I believe now
I
the Liberal
was there.
Party has an official representative on the Board of Internal Economy, so it's truly an all-party effort.
Is it
Perhaps the
still
deputy
before
can-
the Ministry of Infrastructure, and are things proceeding?
There's no question the Ministry of Infrastructure and me as acting minister plays a role in making recommendations to the Board of Internal Economy, and it's a work in progress. I think the deputy could perhaps add to that.
Absolutely. We're still looking at decant locations, working through safety, security. We're also doing the functional programming with respect to this building, looking at the planning and how we would undertake that work as well. So whether if it's with respect to the actual planning of this building and the decant, we're still working through those, and we will be reporting through the Board of Internal Trade, Economy, and we'll ensure that we will keep them apprised as we move forward.
Thank you. That concludes our very spirited committee's consideration of the 2025-2026 estimates of the Ministry of Infrastructure